there, Sandy here, and today I'm joining a group of crafty Canadian YouTubers to feature Canadian craft products and shops. A total of 16 shops and 2 Canadian paper craft magazines have generously sponsored today's event, and we're giving away over $1,300 in prizes. And in fact, my own 3Room Studio is one of those sponsors. After you've finished watching my video, please leave a comment for your chance to win, and then click on the link in the description below for the next person in the hop. The more you comment, the higher your chances of winning. And please indicate if you are in Canada or elsewhere, as a few prizes are restricted to Canadian addresses only. All of the giveaway details are on Emily Leaphart's blog, so if you get lost during the way, you can just head on over for the full list of participants, and that link will be listed in the description below as well. For my video, I'm showing you how I made this shadow box card that can be flattened to a finished size of 5.5 by 4.25 inches and mailed just as you would mail any other A2 card. This is such a simple card to make, but it has a lot of impact, and I was inspired by a Jennifer McGuire video, which I'll also link below in the description. And you know she'll have a ton of examples. So if you'd like to pause the video here and take a screenshot, I'm starting out with 2 pieces of white cardstock measured at 4.25 by 7.5 inches, another piece of 4.25 by 5.5 inch white cardstock, and a piece of 4.25 by 5.5 inch black cardstock. Cardstock itself is not really heavyweight, so it will bend and fold easily, but we'll firm the whole thing up along the way. I'm using a 3RoomStudio Digi called You-Matter-to-me, and I've also got a couple of circular nesting dies to make the opening. The largest of these is about 3.5 inches. So the first step is to score each of the longer pieces of white cardstock at 1/2 inch and 1 inch on each end. There's no need for lots of measuring. I'm just scoring one end, and then I'm turning it around and scoring the other end in exactly the same way. Then I'm placing the larger of the circle dies in the center of one of the larger cardstock pieces, and I'm taping it down to run through the die cutting machine. Once that's done, I'm going to fold the score lines over in the Z fold. Yes, Z and not Z, Canadian, on each end for both pieces. Once these 2 pieces are placed together, they will form the shadow box. Next, I'm going to place the black cardstock behind the front panel, and I'll line it up where it will sit. And I'll use a pencil to mark where the opening will be. I actually cut just a fraction off of the side of the black cardstock first to allow the panel to easily fold when the card is assembled. Now that the panel is folded, it's easy to line up. Then I use the pencil mark as a guide to place and tape the smaller of the circle dies on the cardstock before running this through the die cutting machine as well. And this will peek out and create a bit of a contrast around the inside of the opening. Now, the remaining smaller piece of white cardstock will form the background. I'm creating my own cloud stencil using some scrap cardstock by just cutting some round shapes across one end, and I'll do some simple ink blending to form the clouds using broken china distress oxide and a blending brush. By turning my stencil around and moving it around the page, I can achieve a slightly different look for each row of clouds. And this doesn't have to be very precise since quite a bit of it will be covered anyway. I could have also done this directly on the back panel, but the extra piece of cardstock will make the finished shadow box a little bit more sturdy. I fussy cut the digital image, which is going to be kind of floating inside of the shadow box. I'm trying to keep this video short, so I'll just show the coloring for the lady in the middle. One of the things I wanted to show is that when coloring these images, you need to leave the whites of the eyes uncolored, or they turn out a little funky and you don't realize until after it's all colored. So, of course, the first thing I did was bleed into the eyes and have to use a colorless blender to move that ink back. So, excuse my head, please. I've placed the Copic colors used for this image on screen, and I use different skin tones and hair colors for each, but the orange for their shirts is the same all the way across. I printed this image on Nina Solar White 80-pound paper at a size of 3.5 inches wide. I usually prefer to use Nina 110-pound, which is thicker. I find the 80-pound bleeds a bit more, but the 80-pound goes through my printer better, and it really is fine for Copic coloring. It just depends what you get used to, and I know with the 80-pound Nina, I just need to be a little more careful and account for a bit of ink bleed. Once her skin, hair, and t-shirt are all colored, I use a black polychromos to fill in the eyebrows, since that's a fairly small area and I don't want a big bloop of marker over her eyebrow. So once I finished coloring all 3 of the images, I printed out one of the sentiments that comes with the Digi on a strip of white cardstock and adhering it to a strip of black cardstock that's just a little bit wider so that the black is peeking over the edges. I'm using Tombow Extreme Adhesive for this. That digi is free, by the way. You can get it from the 3RoomStudio shop. It comes with 3 sentiments and it's an instant download. There's some hand-lettered sentiments, and this one is a new format that's being added for an update that will be available today. So if you previously ordered this digi, you should get an email letting you know that there's an updated version available. So I'm just placing that sentiment in behind the card front panel using some craft tacky glue to place the back panel behind the window. And I've also cut about a 1-inch tall strip of acetate that is just slightly larger than the width of the card panel. And my plan is to adhere those ladies to the acetate using some 2-sided tape. I realize they'll be sitting a little too high in the scene though, so I'm just using a trimmer to trim off the bottom. Once I've done that, I'll adhere them to the acetate strip. That way they'll be placed where I want them in the scene, but it will look like they're standing there on their own. The cloud background also gets adhered to the back panel to form the background in the back of the shadow box, and I'm just placing an acrylic block over top to hold it down while the glue sets. Just a bit of fiddling now to make sure the ladies are placed where I want them. I eyeballed the placement of the opening in the front, so I'm just making sure everything is lined up before gluing the box together. I'm using my eraser to hold the image up at the level of the sides, and once it looks right to me, I'm adhering the acetate to the sides with the double-sided adhesive so that the strip floats in between the sides. And then it's time to attach the front with more liquid glue. Trim off those little extra bits of acetate, and this card is complete. Thank you so much for hopping along with us today. Please remember to comment and encourage all the amazing Canadian paper crafters who have participated in this hop, and also for your chance to win prizes. There are over 40 individual gift certificates ranging from $25 to $100, 1-year subscription to Creative Scrapbooker magazine, and a grand prize package worth $150 from Scrapbook and Cards Today. So it's over $1,300 in prizes, and there are even shop coupons for the hop as well that you can use today. The full list will be on Emily Leapard's blog, which will be linked in the description below, along with the next stop on the hop. Thank you so much to all the sponsors. Hey there, this is the time when I would usually link to one of my own videos, but this day is not an easy one for everyone, and if you're not celebrating Canada Day today, I absolutely support you in this. In the spirit of truth and reconciliation, the calls to action, and to honor my Indigenous friends and fellow Canadians who were already hurting and are now navigating through unimaginable pain, I am linking instead to a helpful video explaining the Indian Act in Canada.